Hello, and thank you for joining us for the second session of our In Conversation series. The aim of the series is to provide an insight on topical issues relevant to higher education from a university perspective. This is part of our Discover University programme. We encourage you to follow our Twitter handle at DiscoverUniEXE, which provides regular updates for teachers and advisors. My name is Karl and I'm the school's relationship manager. I'm joined by Katherine Lloyd-Clark, who is the Assistant Director with responsibility for student access, recruitment and admissions. Each session will focus on a different theme, and this week we're going to look at the university sector and focus on the student experience. So hi Katherine, I'd like to start today by talking about something that I thought was something of the distant past, which is student number caps. What does this mean and why are they in place?
Hi, Karl. Well, that's a really good and topical question for my world at the moment. Student number controls have been introduced this year to try and promote the stability of the sector in a time of great uncertainty. Clearly, universities have, over recent years, increasingly recruited large numbers of international students to join their cohorts. And in the context of coronavirus uncertainty, we're really not very sure how many of those international students are going to be able to join us in September or October. And I think that's created some concern out there in government and the wider community and across the university sector about how institutions might behave to try and replace those international student numbers, and in particular whether there might be some very aggressive recruitment tactics to increase the number of UK students to make up for the lost international student numbers. So student number controls have been introduced to temporarily regulate our behaviour for this year only, and they're being managed by the Office for Students. At this precise moment, we don't know exactly what our student number control baseline will be because that hasn't been confirmed yet. There's still a consultation ongoing about that. But we will be allowed to recruit a small number over our planned home EU number target to give us a little bit of scope to make up for some of those lost international numbers. But not to create a free-for-all in doing that. And on the whole, I think for schools and colleges and for applicants, that's a very good thing because it will keep some order and stability to the confirmation and clearing process this year.
Okay, we'll touch upon the confirmation and clearing at a later point. But looking at the student experience, how may this be different come September?
That's a really big question. And clearly many things remain uncertain. At the moment, there are universities which are making announcements about changes to their start dates for the autumn. We've seen Cambridge University in the last 24 hours making announcements about switching its lecture programme to online for the course of next year. And Exeter, of course, is considering all of these things really, really carefully and trying to weigh up the balance of continuity and change in how we deliver our provision. We're very mindful from all of the feedback we've had from our applicant community and from our agent community supporting international recruitment that our students really want to come to us in person on campus and have a campus-based student experience. And of course, intuitively, you would think that for a university like Exeter, which has always had an outstanding student experience and has really an exceptional campus environment, that's a major appealing factor for students coming to us. So we very, very much want to be able to welcome students in person in the autumn. Our decision on that hasn't been made yet, and we are going to put the principle of health and safety, the safety of our staff, our students, our visitors first in that decision making. It's possible that there will be more blended learning, and by blended learning we mean a mixture of face-to-face learning and online. And that might be simply to mitigate late arrivals, people starting their course a little bit later because they've not been able to arrive at the same time as everybody else. Or it might be actually built into the structure of how we deliver the programme. But I think it's fair to say that these changes around the balance of online to face-to-face have been coming in the sector for some while, irrespective of COVID. And it's always something that we emphasise in our transition activity with schools and colleges, that universities use virtual learning environments to a very great extent, perhaps way more than most schools or colleges might do in the normal course of delivering in the classroom. So that emphasis on online and on virtual learning environments is really, although it's enhanced in the current context, it's not really new. And I think it's really important to stress that. So I wouldn't want students to be worrying that they're going to lose out on the traditional university experience entirely. It's just that perhaps we all have to adjust our expectations on what that university experience was always going to offer. It was always going to involve much greater online learning than perhaps school or college.
So some students may look at this and say, okay, what if I defer for a year and commence my degree programme a year later? What are the benefits for those students?
I think the whole subject of deferral and gap years is a very interesting one. And of course, at the moment, what we're seeing is that students who had already planned to take a gap year are having to adjust those plans because they're really not sure they can go and do all of those exciting things that they had planned, travelling, perhaps volunteering overseas, all of that is rather less certain. So we've seen quite a lot of requests from students wanting to come in 2020 and not go ahead with a planned gap year, which is really sad for them because, in my personal experience, the opportunity to travel, to study internationally is really defining when you're at that sort of 18, 19-year-old stage. So I really hope the world will open up again for those students soon. But I think if students are worried about the balance of online learning and are thinking that they might defer because things will be more settled in 2021, I'd simply come back to the point I was making earlier, really, that I think the amount of online learning in university is here to stay. There will still be a rich campus experience around that. And it doesn't mean that all interaction will be computer-based, far from it. But it's really that we're trying to make the most of academic staff contact time for the kind of really deep learning that we hope students come to university for. And the things that are really about delivering content and knowledge that can be done in a lecture or online are done in the most efficient way. So we're trying to concentrate the experience really so that academic staff contact time is used really productively in smaller group settings. And I think that's a really rational and positive way forward, irrespective of the COVID scenario.
So looking at for students who do start, one of the questions they may have is where courses have industrial placements or they've got year abroad. What do you think the impact of COVID-19 may be on courses that have those sort of placements or year abroad?
Well, we're actively planning for that at the moment. We feel really passionate about the added value that comes from one of those study abroad or work abroad type experiences. There are so many exciting opportunities at Exeter to do that, whether it's in Europe or further afield. We've had a student who, through the COVID crisis, was in Fiji. We have students who study and volunteer in Australia during study abroad opportunities. So we're really mindful of the need to make sure that those things can continue. And of course, much of that depends on travel restrictions and when those ease. Our partners internationally are as keen as we are to maintain those opportunities, but they may need to take a slightly different format initially. And some of those experiences might involve elements, again, of online delivery. But the essence of study abroad is that experience of immersing yourself in another culture. So we very much hope that those will be able to continue as soon as is practically possible.
And you've touched upon travel implications and how that may have changed as a result of the current situation we're in. What would you say are the implications of fewer international students starting sort of UK universities in September? So what are the implications for the sector and for universities?
Well, we're taking a little bit of a deep breath as we look at what the financial implications of that might mean. Clearly, international students pay more than UK students do for their education. They very much enrich our learning environment and our classroom experience. And I think we very much see ourselves at Exeter as a university in which the global is at the heart of everything we do. And it's about much more than the finances. It is about that rounded experience of operating in a genuinely international context. I mean, most of our students will go on to live and to work in a highly globalized world, you know, perhaps for multinational companies where their work takes them to different parts of the world routinely. Clearly, travel will change post-COVID, and there's a huge sustainability and green agenda around reducing unnecessary travel. But I don't think we'll see globalization retreat completely. So being able to welcome international students is really critical for us. And it's critical both from a learning perspective and from that kind of economic perspective. But our focus will continue to be on a rich campus-based student experience for everybody, wherever they come from in the world.
Okay. We're going to leave it there for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be running further sessions, so please do follow us on Twitter @DiscoverUniEXE for further updates on future sessions. Thank you.